Now guys, in my last video I showed you all how to export out of Premiere Pro using the smart rendering option 5 to 10 times faster. But what about speeding up your editing process before we get to the final export? There's going to be projects that you deal with where they were shot on a high codec, high bitrate format. Now some of those examples is going to be the GH5 that's shot in 4K at 400 megabytes all in with the 10-bit codec, or the RAW formats that range from 4K to 8K, like the Red or the Arri, or even the Blackmagic cinema camera that deals with 4K and the new 6K option. Now when you're dealing with video files like this, you may not have the strongest computer or even the best specs to be able to handle playing back this footage in real time without it dropping frames, or even worse, crashing and freezing your Premiere Pro project. Now, with that being said, this is where Proxies is going to come into play and save you major time and headaches when it comes to editing your project inside of Premiere Pro. Now in this video, we're going to be discussing Proxies, the different methods of proxy editing, and how to use these for your next project.
So real quick, for anyone who doesn't know what proxies are, they're lower resolution copies of the media that you've created by either transcoding raw media to an intermediate codec, such as ProRes, Cineform, DNHR, etc. Or it's the simultaneous in-camera recording that high-end cameras offer, where you can record both the full and intermediate codecs at the same time. So for example, cameras such as the Red, the Arri, or even the new Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera that does 4K, or the newly released 6K option, they offer the options where you can record in the RAW format as well as recording in things such as the ProRes option. Now real quick, I did notice that a lot of people don't know what the offline online editing workflow means. What it means is that when you're editing in the proxy mode, it's offline, and then once you relink the proxy back to the full resolution quality, it then becomes online editing. So anytime you hear someone referring to the offline online editing workflow, proxies are what they're referring to. Now guys, the actual breakdown of creating proxies, there's two ways, even though they're almost similar in terms of creating them. The first option is going to be you take the full res footage, you import directly through Premiere Pro from the memory card, and in your ingest settings, you copy and create proxies onto an external hard drive. From there, once those proxies are created and linked with the full res files, you can then toggle back and forth between the full res online and the proxy offline mode. Because both online and offline files are connected to each other through the external hard drive, that's how you're able to toggle back and forth. Now the second way of doing this would be taking the full res footage and saving it onto an external hard drive directly. From there you can create a Premiere Pro project and bring in all of your full res clips, and then you can select the clips that you want to create proxies for. And then once you've created those proxies within Media Encoder, you now are able to toggle back and forth between online and offline mode, aka from the full res to the proxy mode. And you're able to do this second setup the same way that the first setup is. The only difference is the initial first part, where you're either saving it directly onto an external hard drive first and then bringing the clips in manually to Premiere Pro, or you can just open up a Premiere Pro project and copy and create the proxies directly from the memory card. It's all up to you and which option you want to do. Now there's three ways to create proxies, and I'm going to be showing you all three ways to create these proxies. I will leave a time code down below for each method of creating the proxy, so you can just skip to each time code if you want to just learn about one or all three of them. Now the first way of creating the proxies is going to be taking the full res footage and importing it directly through Premiere Pro from the media browser and the ingest settings, and copy and creating proxies onto an external hard drive, where then you can toggle back and forth in your Premiere Pro project from the online mode, which is the full res version, and the offline mode, which is the proxies that you've created inside of Premiere Pro. Now the second way of creating proxies is the standard import proxy method, which most of us probably already know, which is you're taking the full res footage that was directly saved onto an external hard drive or your desktop, and from there you're creating your Premiere Pro project and bringing all of your clips into the Premiere Pro project, and then selecting the clips, if not all of those clips, to create into proxies, which then go from the Premiere to Media Encoder to have proxies created. And then once those proxies have been created inside of Media Encoder, you can then toggle back and forth between the online mode, which is the full res version, and the offline mode, which is the proxies that you've created. Now the third and final way of using proxies is using custom preset ingest methods that we'll create inside of Media Encoder. Now I will leave a link down below with actual templates that I've created for all of you all to bring inside of Media Encoder, which you can then use inside of Premiere Pro if you don't want to learn how to create these ingest methods. So like I said, there will be a link down below where you can download these templates that I've created for you all just to save your workflow and time. Now guys, the first way of creating proxies is going to be from taking it directly from the memory card and then copying, creating proxies onto your external hard drive directly from Premiere Pro. So what you would do is inside of your Premiere Pro project, you'll find your media browser. From your media browser, you want to find your memory card that's connected to the computer. You want to then go and find the clips from that memory card that you want to have copied and created proxies. For me, I have these 3 example clips. You'll then go up to your ingest tab and make sure that this ingest tab is selected or checkboxed. From there, you'll then go over to the toolbar right here and open ingest settings. Now make sure that this ingest tab is selected, and you're going to have 4 options from this drop down menu. You'll have copy, transcode, create proxies. Now the 4th option is what we're going to want to focus on, which is the copy and create proxies. Now what this is doing obviously is it's copying the files from the memory card, putting it onto the external hard drive, and at the same time creating proxies from the full res files. So you'll go ahead and select the copy and create proxies tab. From there you'll go to the preset tab, and this is 3840 by 2160 footage I'm dealing with. So I'm going to select the 1280 by 720 option, and I want to use ProRes 422 proxies. You'll go ahead and select that. Now the primary destination is where your full res files are going to go. You have 4 options, which is the same as the project: use preset destination, creative cloud files, or you can choose the location. I would personally go with choose location, so you can specifically put where you want your full res files and your proxy files to go. For this, I'll choose location. And as you can see, I've already saved my full res files onto the external hard drive, as well as creating proxies. But for this video, let's just go ahead and make a new folder, full res, hit create, and then you can choose. And then for the proxy destination, you can choose the location and also put inside of your full res folder or wherever you choose, but I'll go ahead and put it in the full res folder and then make a folder called proxy, and then you can choose that. From there you can now hit OK, and once you've hit OK, then all you have to do is drag all of your clips that you've done the ingest settings to and import it directly into your Premiere Pro project. Now once you've dropped it and imported into your Premiere Pro project, what it's going to do is then send everything to Media Encoder to begin the proxy workflow that you just set up in your ingest settings. Now it may not look like it's doing anything inside of Premiere Pro, but to make sure that it is working and being sent to Media Encoder, all you have to do is go to your Window tab, go down to Progress, select Progress, and then it will come up with the progress bar where it will be showing you that it is in current mode of working and creating the proxies inside of Media Encoder for you to be able to use inside of Premiere Pro. And the other awesome thing is while this is working in Media Encoder, this is a background render, background process, so you can work on the full res files inside of your timeline while these proxies are being created. And then once the proxies are created and ready to be used, you can then toggle back and forth from the online full res files to the offline proxy files. But that is the great thing of the background process of you're able to still work on those clips inside of Premiere Pro while Media Encoder is taking the time and the taxing job of creating proxies from those 4K files. Now guys, the second method is going to be the standard import method that most of us I believe are familiar with, which is where you're going to just import the clips from the memory card or the external hard drive and create the proxies directly from that. So what we would do is hit Command I, which is the keyboard shortcut for importing footage. And what you'll do is bring in the footage from your memory card or your external hard drive. For this example, I'm going to bring in these clips. You'd hit import, which will then import the clips into your Premiere Pro project. For this, I already have these clips brought into Premiere Pro, so I'm going to go ahead and use them as an example. And then once you've hit OK to bring in those video clips into your Premiere Pro project, which you will find in your project tab, you'll then select the clips that you want to turn into proxies. Once you've selected those clips, you will then right click, go down to Proxy, create proxies. For this example, I am using 3840 by 2160 file sizes. You can choose the format tab, which will give you the H.264 or the QuickTime option. Now, I would suggest using the QuickTime option. Do not use the H.264. It's not a good codec to use. So select QuickTime. And as I said, this is a 3840 by 2160 size that I am turning into proxies. Some of you all will be dealing with 5K, 6K, 8K options that have different sizing. When you click this preset tab, they will give you sizing based off of what footage you're trying to turn into proxies. So for this example, as I said, it is 3840 by 2160. So I want to select the 1280 by 720 Proxy ProRes tab. I will click that, and then I can either, for the destination, I can either put it next to the original media, which will then create a proxy folder next to the full res files, or you can manually select where you want to put your proxies. It's up to you and what you want to do. I usually just put it in the original media proxy folder. You could have a second hard drive attached to where you want to save the proxies in the second hard drive, which you could take on the road with you, or you can take away from your full res files for later editing use, to where you don't need the full res files because you have the proxies now, and you're able to edit quicker and faster using those proxies at a different location, on a different laptop, on a different computer, whatever it may be. So you would hit OK, and then once you hit OK, it's going to create the proxies inside a media encoder, and then back in Premiere Pro, you'll be able to toggle back and forth between the full res files and the proxy files. So for this example, I've already created the proxies. Now, the other important thing is to be able to tell when you're editing on your full res footage and when you're editing on your proxy footage. So to be able to know that, what we'll do is we'll come over to the program folder and select this button editor. From there, you want to find the toggle proxy tab, and you want to bring this down if you don't already have it in this section right here. So I'm going to go ahead and drop it right there. Once it's in, you can hit OK. Now, when you select this button and it's highlighted, the proxy is active and working while you're editing. When you deselect this, whatever files you have turned into proxies are now back in full res online mode. Now, the other method of being able to double check and make sure that you're editing in proxy mode, or that you're now back in full res mode, is if you have the toggle button selected, it should be in proxy mode. If it's deselected, it should be in full res mode. The other way to check this is to go to any of your video clips that you've created proxies for. If you have it selected, as we do here, it should be in proxy mode. So let's go to one of these clips. You'd right click that clip, and then you want to scroll down until you find Reveal in Finder. When you click Reveal in Finder, it should come up to that proxy folder that you created, and it should go right to the proxy video file if you're in proxy mode. Now, let's go back, get out of here, and let's deselect it. So now when we do this same process, when we right click and go to Reveal in Finder, instead of taking us to the proxy folder, it should now take us to the full res file. So let's go ahead and click Reveal in Finder. And as you can see, instead of taking us to the proxy file, it is now taking us to the full res file. So that is the other way of how you can check and make sure that you're editing in full res mode or you're editing in proxy mode. I know you may be dealing with hundreds of video files, so that's a major thing to be able to check really quickly. So when you have it toggled on, it should be in proxy mode. When you have it toggled off, it should be in full res mode. And that's the way of how you can double check and make sure that you're in offline or online mode. Now guys, the last thing I want to show you all before we get into creating your own proxies is you can also come up into your project panel and right click the metadata display. In the search bar, you'll search proxy. And when you select that and then hit OK, you can scroll over and find your proxy. And what I do is I bring it all the way to the forefront, and it'll tell you the proxies that you've created are now attached to the full resolution media files. If it wasn't attached, it would say offline, and then all you would need to do is come in and go down to proxy, and you could do attach proxies. Say for instance, if you were somebody who only had the full res media and then you were sent the proxies at a later time, you could just attach the proxies by clicking the attach proxies button and then manually attaching the proxies with the full resolution media. Now the other thing would be is if you were somebody who was only dealing with the proxy files and you needed to connect the full resolution media at a later time. Say for instance, if you were the editor who was only sent the proxy files and then you were sent the full resolution media at a later time and you were done your editing and everything was ready to be exported out, you would then need to attach the full resolution media. So in that option, all you would do is select all of the proxies in your Premiere or editing station. You would right click it, scroll down to proxy, and then in this proxy column you would do reconnect full resolution media. You would click that and then it would come up with a panel where it would show you all of your proxy videos and where you wanted to reconnect the proxies to the full resolution media. All you would have to do is click all the video clips, hit attach, and then it would attach the full resolution media to the proxies. Now let's go ahead and jump into how to create proxies inside of Media Encoder. So guys, now that we're inside of Media Encoder, what we're going to do is we're going to create the ingest preset that we'll be using inside of Premiere Pro. Now this is a two-step process. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create an encoding preset, and then we're going to create the ingest preset based off the encoding preset. Now Premiere Pro only supports the ingest preset, so that's why we're having a two-step process to this. So let's go ahead and hop into the encoding preset first. So what you're going to do is you're going to come over to the preset browser. You're going to click the plus button and we're going to do create encoding preset. From there, we'll give it the name ProRes 422 Proxy. For this, I'm going to do a 2K file. So I will do 2048 by 1080, watermarked, time code. And then we're going to go to format and select QuickTime, and we'll do not based on preset, but we're going to click Apple ProRes 422 Proxy. Now the reason why I'm doing a 2048 by 1080 2K proxy is for people that are dealing with 5K to 8K footage. Now some of us that are dealing with the 5K to 8K footage want to have a proxy that is still higher than a HD format like 1920 by 1080 or lower. So 2K is a good compromise when it comes to making a proxy for the people that are dealing with 5K to 8K footage. And like I said, I will be having a link down below in the description where you can download this template pack, where it will have a wide variety of proxies that you can use for different formats. So with that being said, we have the format as QuickTime and the preset as Apple ProRes 422 Proxy. We're going to go over to the video tab and make sure the codec is on ProRes 422 Proxy. For the basic video settings, we're going to deselect everything on here. I want to make sure these are all manual. We want to change the width to the 2048 by 1080. We're going to change the frame rate to 23.976. Field order will stay progressive. Aspect ratio will stay square pixels. We don't need to click the render at maximum depth or the use maximum render quality or the use previews. These are proxies, so we don't need the maximum anything related to this. This is just for a quick editing phase. So with all that being said, all of this stuff will remain the same down here. I'm going to leave all of these unchecked. We'll go over to the effects tab. Now the only two things in this effects tab that I want to deal with is going to be the image overlay and the timecode overlay. So let's go ahead and click the image overlay. Now what the image overlay is going to do is when you're toggling on and off from proxy mode to full res mode, when you toggle to the proxy mode with this image overlay, it will show up when you're in proxy mode. So that's an easy way to be able to tell when you're in proxy mode and when you're in full res mode. When you're in proxy mode, this image overlay that we've installed will be on your clips. When you go back to full resolution mode, the image overlay will disappear, letting you know that you're back into full res mode. Now in image overlay, we're going to go to choose and select the proxy PNG. Now the proxy PNG is something that I created inside of Photoshop for you all for this specific image overlay. I will leave it in the description where you can download this PNG file in order to put it inside of the image overlay. So we'll go ahead and select the proxy PNG. I want to put the position in bottom right, and I'm going to select the absolute sizing. And the next thing I'm going to worry about is the timecode overlay. I want the timecode overlay to be in the top center position. And I'm going to make sure that the size is 11 and the opacity is 50. I have the media file selected. And then that's the only two things that we're going to worry about in the effects tab. So from there, we're going to hit OK. And as you can see, now it has created a encode preset inside of my preset folder that I've made. Now the next thing we're going to do is make an ingest preset based off of the encoding preset we did. As I said before, Premiere Pro only supports ingest presets. So we're going to go back to the plus sign, and instead of encoding preset, we're going to select ingest preset. The preset name is going to be named the same thing as the encoding preset, so ProRes 422 Proxy _ 2048 by 1080 watermark time code, and then this time we're going to name the end of it ingest. In the comments I'll put ingest preset. We're not going to worry about anything with the transfer. We're only going to worry about the transcode files to destination. So we'll select the transcode files to destination. Now the destination itself is actually not going to matter in this scenario, because when we're inside of Premiere Pro, we will choose our destination file on where we want the proxies to go. In the meantime though, I did put it to the external hard drive that I have set up. What we really need to worry about is the format and the preset. So we're going to make sure the format is QuickTime, and then when you come to your preset, you should be able to find the encoding preset that you made, the ProRes 422 Proxy 2048 watermark timecode. We'll select the encoding preset that we just made earlier, and then we'll hit OK, and boom, now you have your encoding preset and you have your ingest preset that we're going to bring into Premiere Pro. Now to be able to find out where this ingest preset is so you can bring it into Premiere Pro later on, you'll right click the ingest preset, you'll do reveal preset file, and then just make a mental note on where your preset file is inside of your actual computer. So once you've made a mental note or a screenshot, you can go back into Premiere Pro. Let's go ahead and do that. Now, once you're inside of Premiere Pro, all you have to do is select the file that you want to turn into a proxy. Let's go ahead and right click this video file. You'll go down to Proxy and select Create Proxies. Make sure the format is at QuickTime. And then when you go to Proxy, Preset, you can do Add Ingest Preset, and then remember where you save that preset and navigate to where that preset is. And then all you have to do is you'll see the encoding preset and you'll see the ingest preset. For this, we want to bring in the ingest preset. You'll go ahead and select that. Boom. Now you're using the preset that you made inside of Media Encoder. And then like we just talked about, the destination now you can choose. So you can put it next to the original media in the proxy folder, or you can choose where you want that file to go. For me, like I said, I always put it next to the original media in a proxy folder. So you'll go ahead and hit OK. You'll see that it's doing the creating proxy job tab. It isn't done yet. We brought up the progress bar to see if it was complete or not. Let's wait for it to finish. Okay, now that that proxy is done being completed inside of Media Encoder and it's now been brought back into Premiere Pro to be able to toggle back on and off. Now what we're going to do is bring in this video file into your timeline on Premiere Pro. As you can see right now, it is in full res mode. This is not toggled, this is not checked or selected. So once we check or select this, it should go into proxy mode and it should be able to show us our time code as well as our image overlay. Let's go ahead and click that. And now as you can see, it has put the image overlay and the time code, so now we know that it is in proxy mode. Now don't pay attention to the black bars on the side for this example. The only reason why it's doing this is because this actual original file is a 3840 by 2160 and the proxy is a 2048 by 1080. So it's going to create black bars on the side, but like I said, I will have a template available for download where you're going to have different types of presets for different types of sizes. So this actual proxy size doesn't match up, but if I had to use a proxy preset that I had that did match up to the 3840 by 2160, we wouldn't see these black bars on the side. The whole point is to just show you when you're in proxy mode with these presets, you'll see a time code and an image overlay to let you know you're in proxy mode. When you deselect this toggle proxy button, it'll go back to the original full res file.
Now this is going to be how you can edit smarter and faster when using a proxy workflow for your next project. As always guys, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, and share this video, as well as subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already.